income tax provision is actually. In that act it says that whenever there is a depreciation or the loss in the company, you can reduce that from the profit. So profit in the reduce money, other tax pay money ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. Then you have security transaction tax. Tax on buying and selling of shares, bonds, mutual funds on stock exchanges. So example is as a point 0.1. Even then what do you do with mutual funds? You keep on hearing, right? So mutual fund and invest all over. You guys keep on seeing that period. So what do you do with mutual funds?
Investment
of lump sum amount. Okay. Then what is other difference? Because the lump sum amount ಯಾರು share ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ಹಾಕಬಹುದು, the share market also. But why are you investing in mutual funds? So I know safe profits irutte, the like fixed profits irutte, fixed gains irutte. But still, even you can decide some other investment, right? So share market decide ಮಾಡಬಹುದು, bonds ಕೂಡ decide ಮಾಡಬಹುದು, which government bonds you should go for. But still, why there is a mutual funds? Because both are investment only. You direct invest ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ investment, mutual fund through invest ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ it is also an investment only. But you guys know the main difference? You normally direct invest ಮಾಡೋಕೆ you put your mind into it. That's the difference. So you put your mind because you have to do the research and study. But mutual fund ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, they will have a team. So take any of the, let us say company name ಇರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, XYZ mutual fund ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋಣ. So what they will have a team. So what these team will do the analysis. Right, analysis ಮಾಡಿ what they will take is that, let us say you are a person here, so you are paying 100 rupees what to the mutual fund. ಯಾವುದು ಕಂಪನಿಗೆ ಹಾಕ್ತೀರಾ 100 rupees ಹಾಕ್ತೀರಾ. Then what mutual fund will do, or 100 rupees ತಗೊಂಡು ಹೋಗಿ ಕಂಪನಿ ಟು ಒಂದರಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಯಾವುದೋ ಟಾಟಾ ಕಂಪನಿ ಅಂತ let's say ಜಿಯೋ ಕಂಪನಿ ಹಾಕೋದಿಲ್ಲ. They will distribute that 100 rupees into multiple parts. I mean they will take the risk. Who is taking the risk there? The mutual fund team will take the risk, and what they will invest in different entities because ನಿಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. Because as a person you don't have enough time. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ enough time ಇಲ್ಲ, you can't go to what see the market, see how ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಾಗ್ತಿದೆ how ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಾಗ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. You cannot analyze daily basis. So again ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ, you will believe in what one of the mutual fund investor there. So mutual fund company ಹೋಗಿ you will give them 100 rupees. And what they promise, sir every year ನಿಮಗೆ 9% gain ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ. Means for every 100 rupees investment we will give you 9% of the or 9 rupees of the profit. Right? So then they will believe in them and then you put the 100 rupees. And then you don't know where it is getting utilized. 100 rupees ಯಾವ ಸೆಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಹೋಗ್ತಿದೆ, 100 rupees ಎಷ್ಟು ಪರ್ಸೆಂಟ್ ಡಿವೈಡ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, you will not ask them. So you just blindly believe them because you don't have enough time. So what the concept, right? So it's also about investment only, but ನೀವು ಇದನ್ನ direct study analysis ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ because you don't have enough time. And whenever you find this problem, so people will go for mutual funds. So they will have a core team, so which will do the analysis and all those things and then come up with a solution. And they will only decide. So yes, 100 rupees is 10 rupees gold ಹಾಕೋಣ, then 10 rupees ಜಿಯೋ ಕಂಪನಿ ಹಾಕೋಣ, other 10 rupees crude oil ಹಾಕೋಣ, right? So they take their own decision. So that's why even mutual fund advertisement ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು disclaimer ಇರುತ್ತೆ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಸ್ಪೀಡ್ ಆಗಿ ಓದ್ತಾರೆ ಅದನ್ನ. So what they will say that it is not our, like we will not give any guarantee. There can be losses also because mutual fund ಕೂಡ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಿದೆ, it is going to invest, right? So if they face loss, you have to also face the loss. Mutual fund guarantee ಅಪ್ಪ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್ ಗ್ಯಾರಂಟಿ ಕೊಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಲಾಸ್ ಕೂಡ ಆಗಬಹುದು. But it's just that ನಿಮಗೆ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಟೈಮ್ to do the research. So instead of you, they will be doing the research. So that's the mutual fund. And so they say mutual funds, what is the transaction that happens here? So this also carry the tax, that is your securities transaction tax, that is 0.1% of value of the transaction. Either it can be share. So bond ಅಲ್ಲಿ you can go for what to say direct government securities. So ನೀವು open market operation ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ, so whenever you buy and sell the government securities, on that also you have to pay the tax. That is 0.1%. See, need not to remember the value in ಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. If you cannot, you can use it in your mains exam. But they will not ask the value. ಎಷ್ಟು percentage ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. So you saw the capital gains tax rate, how they asked. So like that only, it will be more conceptual in nature in UPSC. So next is what your dividend distribution. You can take example of shareholders. So whatever they earn the profit as a shareholder, is the distribution of portion of the company's profit or earnings to its owners of the shareholders. So earlier paid by the companies on dividends, so it was abolished actually. Now the dividend is taxable in the hands of the shareholder. So ಮುಂಚೆ ಏನಾಗಿತ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕಂಪನಿ ಮೇಲೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಿತ್ತು. The company used to pay the complete profit ಅಂತ ಅದರ ಮೇಲೆ ಅವ್ರು ಪೇ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ರು. As of now what? The distribution tax is on the actual person who is gaining the income. So So yaar income ತಗೋತಾರಲ್ಲ ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್ ಬರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ they have to pay the tax. So initially it was on the company because why I have given this point is like UPSC ಅದೇ ತರ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. So whatever has changed, right? So previous they will give it as a statement. They will say that the dividend distribution tax is imposed on the company. But they already changed it, but they want to test you guys whether you guys are aware of what is happening in the economy or not. So that's why earlier it was on the companies, now it is on hands of the shareholders. So what is dividend? Dividend is nothing but a profit earned on the shares. So ಯಾವುದೇ person if he is holding a share, ನೀವು ಕೂಡ share market ಅಲ್ಲಿ invest ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ. So you also be holding a share. So ಅದರ ಮೇಲೆ profit ಏನು ಬರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ you have to pay the dividend distribution tax. So this is very important. Introduced in 2016, so applied to foreign companies earning the digital revenue from India without physical presence. So why? Because according to your Income Tax Act 1961, it says that to put a revenue or tax on the income, it should have a physical presence. So establishment ಇರಲೇಬೇಕು. Establishment ಇದ್ರೆ automatically it will be registered, right? So it should be a registered entity. But if you take example of Google Ad service or Netflix service, it will not have establishment in India. So how establishment ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ, they will not come under income tax. So this is kind of a loophole used by the foreign companies. So to avoid that, they got something called equalization levy, and in what to say informal way, it also started that they started calling it Google tax because ಜನರಿಗೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡಿಸಬೇಕು equalization levy. So they call it as Google tax. So ಜನರಿಗೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗಿಬಿಡ್ತಿದ್ರು ಏನಪ್ಪಾ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಪ್ರೆಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಸೊ ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಪೇ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. So we call it as Google tax. And then Google Ads, e-commerce and digital services, you can say it as Netflix. E-commerce you can say it as Amazon. So all of them have to pay what your equalization levy. And equalization levy is a direct tax because they are reading it under direct tax. But is it an income tax? Income tax ಬರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. Because income tax ಇದೆಯಪ್ಪ ಅಂದ್ರೆ we say that it should be part of established or physical presence in India. So physical presence ಇಲ್ಲಪ್ಪ ಅಂದ್ರೆ it is only a direct tax. How much they have put there? So 6% on ads. So ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ Google ಅಲ್ಲಿ ads ನೋಡ್ತಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ads should keep on running. So ಅದರ ಮೇಲೆ they have to pay 6% to India. And it is an e-commerce. So let's take example of Amazon. So they have to pay how much? 2% on the e-commerce business. So this is fixed value. How about the second one? That's not important. We'll read at the end this point. Just focus on the first point and try to understand. The second part is not covered. We'll cover it eventually. But just think about the first one. So, is it simple, right? So you should just understand the conceptual clarity should be there here. So it's not the income tax because it doesn't have any fiscal presence. So it is just a direct tax. It's not the income tax. Then how much is that? 6% on your what? Ads. And then you have 2% on the e-commerce. So then customer duty is equal to what? Export and the import of goods. Then you have something called anti-dumping duty and countervailing duty. It is also put by the sender. Anti-dumping duty. So what do you mean by the word dumping? Dumping is you just take the actual meaning of it or the practical meaning of dumping ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? ಬಂದು ಗುಡ್ಡೆ ಹಾಕೋದಂತಾರಲ್ಲ, ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಗುಡ್ಡೆ ಹಾಕೋಲ್ಲ, just put it in a lot. So that's dumping ಅಂತ ನಾವು. So usually what happens is like this foreign, like let's take example of China only. China dumps goods in what? India. So dump ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಏನು ಮಾಡೋಣ ಅವರು? Let's take example of they want to manufacture. So pen manufacture ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ 3 rupees ಇದೆ. Let's take pen manufacturing price is 5 rupees. Okay? So 5 rupees pen manufacture ಮಾಡೋದು. ಅವ್ರು ಎಷ್ಟಿಗೆ ಸೆಲ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಇಲ್ಲಿ? You just take an example. So 5 rupees ಇದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರು ಎಷ್ಟಿಗೆ ಸೆಲ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು? Okay? Let us take example of in the worst case 6 rupees, right? Consider that 1 rupee profit ಬೇಕು okay? So ಇದು ನೋಡಿ. So the India ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ 5 rupees ಅನ್ನು ಮ್ಯಾನುಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಚರ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. So they will also selling it at 6 rupees or let us say 8 rupees, right? These are the two possibilities. 6 or 8 rupees ಗೆ ಸೇಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರ್ತಾರೆ. But China ಏನು ಮಾಡುತ್ತಪ್ಪ ಅಂದ್ರೆ it will think that if we give 5 rupees per net 3 rupees, if we give 5 rupees per net 3 rupees, what will happen? People ಯಾರು buy ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ? They go for the 3 rupees, right? Because economically when it comes to survival, people will not think about Atmanirbhar Bharat. ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಯಾರು think ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? No, right? Do you guys go and search whether it is made in China or made in India? ಒಮ್ಮೆ ಮನೆಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ ಓ made in China. Because it's about survival. It's only through the schemes you can ensure, but as an individual, it's very difficult to ensure what is the self-reliance. So at the same time, what China will do, it will sell the 5 rupees per net 3 rupees. So ಯಾರಿಗೆ impact ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಇದು? Impact the domestic market. So ಇವ್ರು ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರಪ್ಪ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ they run this for 5 years. 5 years ಅವರು 3 rupees ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಸೆಲ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ರನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಯಾರು ಚೈನಾ ಅವರು. So when they run this thing for 5 years, what will happen in domestic market? Complete collapse ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. Then what will happen? They will be shutting down of pen factory itself, right? So 5 rupees pen ಯಾರು ರೆಡಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರ್ತಾರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ shut down ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. Then what will happen? It will be relying on what? China. Getting that? So this is actually the plan. So this is the process is called as dumping, the dumping process. It actually is done by the China. So there were times even the color papers were what to say imported from China because of the same thing. So nowadays the government of the what say the nations are understanding that the China is doing this thing. So for that purpose they have started something called anti-dumping duty. So Director General of Trade actually it's a central government department and it's a central authority. So what they will do, they'll keep on doing the survey on it. So ಎಲ್ಲ market ಎಲ್ಲ product ಅವರು survey ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. Work of department is the same thing. So China goods ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಬೇರೆ country goods ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಅದು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ತಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ, so what's the price difference? So ನಮ್ಮ goods ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ, ಅವ್ರ price ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ, and what is the reason? So they find out the reason and they list the goods list ಮಾಡಿ then they put on the what is the custom duty ಎಲ್ಲ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ. So custom ಹಾಕಿದಾಗ ಏನಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಐಟಮ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ you have to put something called anti-dumping duty. So ಏನು 3 rupees sell ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ they compare with the domestic price. So domestic price ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ 6 rupees. They add extra 3 rupees as a anti-dumping duty and make it as 6 rupees. Now they ask that quality improve ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ compete ಮಾಡಿ domestic market. But you cannot just dump the good to destroy the domestic market. Okay? So that is your anti-dumping duty. And there is another thing called as countervailing duty. So both are additional tax only. Countervailing duty. So ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತಪ್ಪ ಅಂದ್ರೆ say example of Japan. Right? So Japan ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ Japan are selling something. ಅವರು ಪೆನ್ ನ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಸೆಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. But it is not because of dumping process. ಅವರು ಸೆಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ರಪ್ಪ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರು ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವ್ರ ಕಂಟ್ರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಪೆನ್ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟರಿ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ. ಸೊ ಪೆನ್ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟರಿ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ರನ್ ಆಗ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಟು ಮೇಕ್ ದಟ್ ರನ್ ಇನ್ ಅ ಬೆಟರ್ ವೇ ಅವ್ರು ಸಬ್ಸಿಡಿ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಸಬ್ಸಿಡಿ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ, 2 crore 3 crore ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಕಟ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದಟ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಕಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಆಲ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ will come down, right? So we are taking example of Japan. So is Japan friendly or enemy nation for us? It's a friendly nation. So our government of subsidy ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಾಗತ್ತಪ್ಪ ಅಂದ್ರೆ it will come down to 3 rupees. Getting that? It will come down to 3 rupees. So but it will also destroy the domestic market, right? So at that time India will put something called countervailing duty. So countervailing duty yake it will make it as +3 and equal it to your domestic market. Getting this one? Just nomenclature is different. ಎರಡರಲ್ಲೂ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಆಡ್ ಹಾಕಿ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. But they will decide that China goes under anti-dumping and what to say Japan goes under countervailing. Because of Japan ಕೂಡ anti-dumping ಅಂತ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ what will happen? It will what relationship ಹಾಳಾಗತ್ತಲ್ಲ. So to what to ensure the good relationship they use the different words. But in both the cases it is to save what? It is to save the domestic market. Any confusion with this? So it's about to save the domestic market. Whenever the other country products are at very cheaper rates, they try to balance the domestic market. So domestic market ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ price ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ they try to equate with that. So and both are added to what? Your custom duty. So first one is your anti-dumping duty. See, this is on what? This is on purpose. So anti-dumping China ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ this is on purpose. They want to destroy the domestic market. But the countervailing ಅಲ್ಲಿ it is not the purpose. Japan ಗೆ ಏನಪ್ಪ ಅವ್ರ production process improve ಮಾಡೋಕೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. But as a consequences, India will face that mistake. So that's why we use the word countervailing. When a foreign company sells the goods at very low prices to destroy domestic producers, anti-dumping duty is applied to raise the price of the imported goods to protect the domestic industry. So what happens in countervailing? applied when foreign goods become cheaper due to subsidies given by their government. So if purpose ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಬಂದು ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಪರ್ಪಸ್ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ದೇರ್ ಏನು ಪರ್ಪಸ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಇಂಪ್ರೂವ್ ಆಗಲಿ ಅಂತ ಸಬ್ಸಿಡಿ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಸೊ ಸಬ್ಸಿಡಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಾಗ ಆಟೋಮೆಟಿಕ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರೈಸ್ ವಿಲ್ ಗೋ ಡೌನ್. So CVD or countervailing duty is used to what compensate for these subsidies and protect the domestic producers. But in both the cases they are protecting domestic producers and in both the cases they are putting the additional tax. It is just that for different reasons they put the different tax system. The name of the tax differ based on the reason. And this also what direct or indirect? There are special types of custom duties means. When it is we all give one single answer and you fine then yeah. So what is the entity that decides that? Director General of Trade Remedies is the apex national authority under Ministry of Commerce and Industry for administering all trade remedial measures including anti-dumping and duty. So every 2 years so what they will do, they take the goods and then what they try to compare with the what to say the foreign price or what to say the imported good price. Then start from the front. I'm telling you 2 rupees 3 rupees item in the start with the because every market is important for us. So every sector is important for us. So they'll do that revision for every 2 years and whenever they put this duty they put for 5 years. But take up 5 years and again for the next 2 years they'll go for the revision of. Okay. So it is under what? Director General of Trade Remedies under which ministry? Ministry of Commerce and Industry. This was only taken as not paid tax. So then we have direct taxes under state. So we have the first one is what here land revenue levied by states on different type of land, productivity and value. So tax differ actually land tax. The irrigated land, unirrigated land, and what is the value of property also. So if it is beside the highway, you know, right? So price just there. So at that time tax will be different. Then you have property tax levied on the real property. Here it includes both land plus building. It is the duty of the municipality of particular area to do this assessment and determine the property tax. Why taking example of municipality? Because your property tax will not be same. Vijayanagar, Chandra layout alli, or let us say Vijayanagar. So in the Vijayanagar and in Majestic area, will it be differing there? So property is same area. It has to differ, right? Because it's a high value area. So the high commutation area. That is, people will go, keep on going and doing an economic activities high means automatically alli just tax agutade. So that's why it is not a state tax. Alli state tax idru kuda state will not decide. Who has to decide it? It is the urban local body. So you will. So municipality has to decide which area has not greater economic activity. Alli just tax agutade. Okay? And then used by municipalities for roads, parks, public schools and etc. It is paid annually or semi-annually. It differs. So one like because it differs from municipality to municipality. So one municipality annually tax collect ಮಾಡೋದು ಇಲ್ಲ some municipalities will collect it semi-annually means every 5 months. So that is your property tax and it is what? It is the duty of the municipality. So but even though it is the duty of municipal, we call it as direct tax under the state authority. Then you have stamp duty. Stamp duty is imposed on all legal property transactions. The physical stamp had to be attached to or impressed upon the document to denote that the stamp duty had been paid. Since it is imposed by the states, the rate varies from state to state. As I said, as of now, the Karnataka is the highest like in terms of the stamp duty there. And why it is indirect? You direct government pay ಮಾಡೋದು. ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟಿ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಸಬ್ ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟರ್ ಆಫೀಸಿಗೆ ಪೇ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ. ಬಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತಪ್ಪ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಆಸ್ತಿ ಪತ್ರ ಅಂತೀವಲ್ಲ ಕಾಗದ ಪತ್ರ. ಸೊ ದೋಸ್ ಆಸ್ತಿ ಪತ್ರ ವಿಲ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಅ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಟಾಂಪ್ ಡ್ಯೂಟಿ ಅಟ್ಯಾಚ್ಡ್ ಟು ಇಟ್. ಅಂಡ್ ಅದನ್ನ ಯಾರು ಪೇ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? ಯು ಪೇ ಟು ದ ಅಡ್ವೊಕೇಟ್, ರೈಟ್? ಸೊ ಅಡ್ವೊಕೇಟ್ ಸೊ ಯು ಪೇ ಟು ದ ಲಾಯರ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ದೇ ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅವರು ಹೋಗ್ತಿಗೆ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ? ಯು ಪೇ ಟು ದ ಗವರ್ನಮೆಂಟ್. ಸೊ ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಇಂಟರ್ಮೀಡಿಯರಿ ಪ್ರೆಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಹಿಯರ್. ಸೊ ವಿ ಕಾಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಇಂಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್. Hope you guys got the difference, right? So land tax, property tax and stamp duty. we shall take down the notes for the taxes there, then we go for the GST. Is difficult or simple to understand? Just go through this. Let's turn the laptop and it guys have a little bit. Now, what is SGST? What is CGST? IGST is? Intermediate. IGST. International already ಇದೆ ನಮ್ಮದು custom duty ಇದೆ. Out of state GST. Yeah, out of state GST is good. Just try for that one. Yeah. Any guesses? IGST. Share point from the Google. What is that? What do you find from the Google? Integrated. IGST is integrated. Find out the purpose of it. Guys, I found the purpose. What is the purpose for? State GST ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? So from whom that GST goes? CGST ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತದೆ? But IGST state. What is the purpose of IGST? Because one state ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ, one center ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. Then what is the purpose of IGST? Between two states. It's good for the interstate trade. So interstate at the between two states and trade ಆದರೆ we call it as IGST. ಅದು ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ? ಸೆಂಟರ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್. ಬಟ್ ಸೆಂಟರ್ ಹೋದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಅಗೇನ್ ವಿಲ್ ಗೋಟ್ ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಟ್ ಟು ದ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್. ವಿಲ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ದಟ್ ಯಾವ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ. ಈಗ ಲೆಟ್ ಅಸ್ ಟೇಕ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಅಂಡ್ ಉತ್ತರ ಪ್ರದೇಶ. ರೈಟ್? ಸೊ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಿಂದ ಉತ್ತರ ಪ್ರದೇಶಕ್ಕೆ ಗೂಡ್ಸ್ ಹೋಗ್ತಿದೆ. ಸೊ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ? ಸೊ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಗೂಡ್ಸ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ವಾಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್? ಗವರ್ನಮೆಂಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ದ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್. So interstate ಇದು like goods produce ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ let us say the transport of goods ಆದಾಗ they will collect something called GST as a whole. ಆ GST ಅಲ್ಲಿ there will be CGST and IGST. SGST ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. So we will discuss that to whom that thing will go and why it will go to that people only or that state. Take on the that one purpose of strategy discussion. So we stop in the game. So purpose of strategy discussion. Page Pascal. First point. Government should not run businesses. Government should not run businesses. It must focus on. It must focus on providing the. It must focus on providing the healthy environment. Providing the healthy environment for business. It must focus on providing a healthy environment for business and not focus on profits. And not focus on profits. Next point. Government spends more than it earns. government spends more than it earns. Because of this, there is always fiscal deficit. Because of this, there is always fiscal deficit. Just an example. At present, fiscal deficit is 4.5% of GDP. At present, fiscal deficit is 4.5% of GDP. Okay, in the bracket you can write expenditure is greater than the income. It's a whole new topic. We'll be reading that in your budget, but for now we will just take this. In the bracket, expenditure is greater than the income. Whenever this thing happens, there will be a deficit. Below that example, continue for the next one. So whenever there is a strategic disinvestment, of PSUs, it helps in meeting budget needs, reduce fiscal deficit, and improve infrastructure spending. So government is just like you individuals. So you mother will be done guys will sell things, right? So you can also sell things and then use that money. Next point. During strategic disinvestment, a strategic buyer, in the bracket take down private entities. During strategic disinvestment, strategic buyer in the bracket private entities. Continue. May bring new technology, from management, and investment, making PSUs more efficient, and profitable. Next point. Sometimes government may not want to remain. In that business. As private sectors are more competitive. In that sector. Next point. Sometimes a PSU may be profitable. Not because of efficiency, but due to monopoly and price control. but due to monopoly and price control. Example, Coal India Limited. Example, Coal India Limited. So continue with that below the example. So that's why Coal India Limited has reduced its monopoly and calling for private investments. Reduce its monopoly and calling for private investments. Next one. Privatization introduces competition. Comma, lowering prices. Privatization introduces competition, comma, lowering prices, comma, improved quality, lowered prices, comma, improved quality, and benefiting consumers. Next, take the note below. We can also use this as a calculation. Note. A strategic disinvestment is necessary where private sector can do better than government. Necessary where private sector can do better than government. But it should be taken care that welfare of the people is not compromised. Welfare of the people is not compromised. Good stuff. Below that, take the example. Railways in Nepal. You got that right? So it's about, we can go about this minute. It's not a bad thing. But private sector competitive agi alli price reduce that's fine. But welfare compromise agbodu. So that's why do we think of what we say privatizing railways? Because railways run at very lower cost. So it's as a kind of welfare program. It's benefiting everyone. So that's why you should put your mind even while writing the UPSC answer there. So you direct get do you agree or disagree with the disinvestment or privatization? You should take a stand there. You should always choose a middle path. It's not about telling yes or no. If you tell yes or no, then you are already out of the examination. You should always take a middle path and try to find the balance between both. So you should say that this is good in this situation and this is good in different situation. So you should analyze the situation and take the decision. Next, in the new page, start India's tax system. The fresh chapter. India's tax system. India's tax system. So first line, not point. Article 265. Article 265 of Constitution of India. Article 265 of Constitution of India. Put hyphen. No tax can be levied. No tax can be levied. L-E-V-I-E-D. No tax can be levied or collected except by the authority of law. Except by the authority of law. Next line. This ensures legality. This ensures legality, transparency. This ensures legality, transparency, and no arbitrary taxation. And no arbitrary taxation. So what do you mean by the word arbitrary? That is an arbitrary. Then take to the next subheading. What is tax? What is a tax? And the first part is a mandatory payment. It is a mandatory payment made by individuals. It is a mandatory payment made by individuals and businesses. Mandatory payment made by individuals and businesses to the government. Next point. It acts as a tool of redistribution. It acts as a tool of redistribution, helping the state. It acts as a tool of redistribution, helping the state transfer resources from higher income groups to welfare and public services. From higher income groups to welfare and public services. From higher income groups to welfare and public services. You know Gandhi's trusteeship model. Is anything done for you guys? So this topic Gandhi's trusteeship model. You guys will be using that in your answer. So trusteeship model is Gandhi here the name. It says that even though you have a private property, so private property you should act as a trustee of that property. You should not think that it is my property. You should think that you are a trustee of that property, and then what? You should use that property to help others. So that is Gandhi's trusteeship model. You should never think that even your own resources property is yours. You should think that how you can utilize that for the welfare of the vulnerable section. So that is just in the state. Just take a small 2 to 3 example. Gandhi's trusteeship model. You guys will be using that a lot in your answering. You can also say that tax is one of the tools for Gandhi's trusteeship model. Next, we will subheading. Where does tax money go? Next subheading. Where does tax money go? First point. All tax revenue is deposited. All tax revenue is deposited into the consolidated fund of India. All tax revenue is deposited into the consolidated fund of India under Article 266. Under Article 266. Next point. This is the main account from which the government spends. This is the main account from which the government spends on public services. Welfare schemes and public public services, welfare schemes, salaries, infrastructure, etc. Public services, welfare schemes, salaries, infrastructure, etc. Next, below that, take a small note. The tax imposed, the tax is imposed, and collected as per Article 110. Tax is imposed and collected as per Article 110. And what is your Article 110? Money bill. Money bill. Just in the bracket, there money bill. So money bill, so let us say that they want to increase the tax, so 10% or 15%. So then we have to pass what? The money bill. So whatever the tax imposed, I could collect, I could distribution, everything comes under the money bill. Next, you know that classification of taxes. Classification of taxes. First one, progressive tax. First one is the progressive tax. So type of it increases. The tax rate increases. The tax rate increases as income increases. The tax rate increases as income increases. So stop and continue. Higher the income, higher the tax, higher the percentage of tax. Higher the income, higher the percentage of tax. Let us take example. With respect to income tax, people earning 5 lakh. With respect to income tax, people earning 5 lakh will pay lower tax. People earning 5 lakh will pay lower tax. And how much is for 5 lakh? 5%. It pay lower tax, in the bracket it takes 5%. Then in the bracket it is 5%. So people earning 5 lakh will pay lower tax rate, in the bracket 5%. Then people earning 20 lakh. Then people earning 20 lakh. So in the bracket how much will write? 20%. Take on that as yeah, take on 25%. Next one is the proportional tax. Here tax rate remains constant. Here tax rate remains constant for all income levels. Tax rate remains constant for all income levels. So stop and continue. Higher the income, still the tax percentage remains flat. Example, a flat 10% tax. A flat 10% tax on all incomes, irrespective of whether person is earning, 5 lakh or 20 lakh. Third one take regressive tax. Here percentage of tax collected. Here percentage of tax collected varies. Here percentage of tax collected varies with respect to income. Varies with respect to income. So stop and continue. Higher the income, lower the percentage of tax. Higher the income, lower the percentage of tax. Below an example, GST. Example GST. Put happen and continue. Everyone pays the same GST rate. Everyone pays the same GST rate, comma, but it forms a higher share of income. But it forms a higher share of income for the poor. But it forms higher share of the income for poor. Take on this example. Then I guess take care of the you can lose another week or 2 weeks. Well, go there, cannot prepare well. Especially during this winter season, you lose a lot of time actually. Before and all, you can just somehow manage, but code is there, right? So code is the worst thing that can happen to a person. We'll have body pain and everything. Cannot focus. The first part is cannot even sit in library if you get a cold. You know that? Anyone guess that? You cannot keep copying in the library, right? Everyone will get disturbed, and because of that, you have to stay in the room. And you know, once you go to the room, you just sleep. You cannot read. Just make sure that whatever would happen for next 1 year or the 2 years. Next, take to the next subheading, other types of classification. Next subheading, other types of classification. Other types of classification. Under that first one, specific tax. Under that first one, specific tax. Put that one in the category. Here, tax is fixed. Here, the tax is fixed per unit. Here, the tax is fixed per unit of goods and services. Per unit of goods and services. Here, tax is fixed per unit of goods and services. Full stop and continue. It is not based on the value of the item. It is not based on the value of the item. Example, 30 rupees tax. Example, 30 rupees tax on each liter of petrol. 30 rupees tax on each liter of petrol, regardless of its price. 30 rupees tax on each liter of petrol, regardless of its price. Next table, ad valorem tax. Ad valorem. REM. Annual price. Two type of especially. Here the tax is charged. Here the tax is charged as a percentage of. Here tax is charged as a percentage of. The tax is charged as a percentage of value of the item. Value of the item. First of all, it depends on price of the item. It depends on price of the item, and not on quantity or size. It depends on the price of the item, comma, and not on quantity or size. Let me give the example. GST of 18%. Example, GST of 18% on the price of a mobile. GST of 18% on the price of a mobile phone. Price of a mobile phone. You start and continue. Higher the price, comma, higher the tax money. Higher the price, comma, higher the tax money. In the next one, another way of classification is next subject. Another way of classification is direct and indirect taxes. Another way of classification is direct and indirect taxes. You will take the first one. First line. Here the classification is based on. Point of incidence and point of impact. Here the classification is based on point of incidence and point of impact. Full stop and continue. Point of incidence means where the tax is imposed. Point of incidence means where the tax is imposed. Where the tax is imposed. And point of impact means where the tax is collected. And point of impact means where the tax is collected. We will take the first one, direct tax. Direct tax. Put type on it. Here, point of incidence. Here, point of incidence and point of impact are same. Here, point of incidence and point of impact are same. Next one, indirect taxes. So before that, we will take example income tax. For direct taxes, example is income tax. Next one is indirect tax. Indirect taxes. Put hyphen and continue. Here, the point of incidence. Here the point of incidence and point of impact. Here the point of incidence and point of impact are not same. Example, GST paid. Example, GST paid on Domino's Pizza. GST paid on Domino's Pizza. Just decide and give a space for this. Hope you guys are writing the wherever space is that, right? Just note it lightly. You can do one page. You can just write it in a landscape. Send it over. And before going to exam, this is what you guys have to see. Table LL is there, the difference table of this is the classification table. In exam, you have to go through this and then you can the exam. Because you cannot read in detail of everything. Just decide and give a space for this. Let's take the writing. Direct taxes hyphen center. Direct taxes under center. That is your writing. Direct taxes under center. Direct taxes under center. So the first one is personal income tax. First one is personal income tax. Put hyphen under. Tax on all incomes. Tax on all income. Tax on all income of an individual. Of an individual. Comma, which can include. Comma, which can include salary. Which can include salary. Comma rent. Can include salary. Comma rent. Comma interest. Comma interest, etc. Comma interest, etc. Second one, corporate income tax. Second one is corporate income tax. Put hyphen under it. It is a tax. It is a tax on profits. It is a tax on profits of companies. It is a tax on profits of companies. Just below that, take another line. After 2019 reforms, the standard rate. After 2019 reforms, the standard rate has reduced from. The standard rate has reduced from 30%. Has reduced from 30% to 22%. 30% to 22%. And for new manufacturing companies, and specific sectors, it is 15%. It is 15%. You know that the opposition will tell sometimes, "Sood good ka sarkar." I heard that this hero sarkar or the sood good sarkar means it's the same thing, because they are trying to what being capitalist there. Because if you reduce from 30 to 22%, so for whom they are telling any about the corporate or the business people. That's why whenever this opposition says, it says that the present government is sood good ka sarkar. Sood good means it is corporate people. It's not what Kisan related sarkar. Then the next one is minimum alternate tax. Minimum alternate tax. Put hyphen and continue. This was introduced. This was introduced because some companies showed book profits but still paid zero tax. By using exemptions. In the next line, exemptions like extra expenses, comma, depreciation in the machinery, and loss incur, and loss incur, INCURRE, and loss incur. You guys know, right? The corporate owners is the, so whenever they go to a restaurant and they take the bill, right? For what this thing only. Either extra expense and costly, then they will not try to reduce the tax money. So these are all the different ways. Next slide. MAT ensures MAT, so short of for minimum material tax. MAT ensures such companies pay minimum tax. Such companies pay minimum tax. At present, MAT is 15%. Present MAT is 15% of book profits. Present MAT is 15% of book profits. 15% of book profits. Next slide. A company must pay higher amount. Company must pay higher amount. The company must pay higher amount. Normal income tax. Higher amount normal income tax liability. Higher amount normal income tax liability and MAT liability. So the MAT is for minimum material tax. And MAT liability means whichever is higher they have to pay. Take on the capital gains tax. Next one is fourth one, right? Capital gains tax. Put type on it, right? It is a tax on profit from. It is a tax on profit from sale of assets. Sale of assets like shares. Property. Sale of assets like shares, property, gold, artwork, etc. Gold, artwork, etc. Last sentence, we can take a break. So, capital gains tax is imposed. Capital gains tax is imposed when there is a natural increase. And there is a natural increase in the value of. And there is a natural increase in the value of the property owned. Will you take the example? Here is third one. Third. So like the more the concept clarity is there, it will be easier to solve. Because so there is the other way, sale of products. So you should be knowing capital gain tax ಅಂದ್ರೆ. If you stop at the different classification table ಅಲ್ಲಿ stop ಆದರೆ it becomes very difficult to tackle the question. So actually like classification table ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಮುಗಿಸ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ. So they will read the indirect tax, direct tax. So ಯಾವ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, but they will not go through the each tax. So ನೀವು ಒಂದೊಂದು ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಬೇಕು ಯಾವ ತರ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ for what purpose. So this method that is more than ಇದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ shall take up.
Yeah. ಈ ಬಾಜು ನೀವು ತಪ್ಪು ಬೆಸ್ಟ್
ಕಾಂಪಿಟೇಷನ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆದರೆ ಕಾಂಪಿಟೇಷನ್
ಎಂಟರ್ಟೈನ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಜಿಗ್ಯಾತದ 6 ಲಕ್ಷ 40 ಮೊನ್ನೆ ಸಂಡೆ ಹೊರಗೆ ಡೀಸೆಲ್ ಹುಡುಗರು ಹಚ್ಚಿಬಿಟ್ಟು ಕುಂತಿದ್ದು ನೋಡೋಣ ಬುದ್ಧರಕ್ಕೇನು ಈ ಅಂದರೆ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಎಷ್ಟು ತಿಂಗಳು 3 ತಿಂಗಳು ದೀಪಾವಳಿ ಚಾಲು ಆಗ್ಯದ ಯಾರು ಫ್ರೆಂಡಿನ ರೂಮಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು ನಾಗರಪುರ ಬಾ